I'd like to call to order the agenda of the Belton City Council regular meeting September 24th, 2019. We'd be led to pledge allegiance by Councilman Van Winkle.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have the roll call?
Mayor Davis,
Here.
Councilmember Savage,
Here.
Councilmember Lathrop, Councilmember Tretzel,
Here.
Councilmember Van Winkle,
Here.
Councilmember Clark,
Here.
Councilmember Finn, Councilmember Davidson, Councilmember Peak.
Consent agenda. One motion, non-debatable, to approve the recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action. We got a motion and a second? Discussion. Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Moving down. Resolutions. I'm already at the,
Ordinances after personal appearances.
I'm way down. I'm sliding down here. Look how fast that went.
Yeah, boy, it did move fast.
Look at that.
There you go.
Okay, we have no personal appearances. Ordinances. Motion approving the final reading of bill number 2019-48.
An ordinance approving an amendment to the first amended and restated tax increment financing redevelopment agreement and the second amended and restated tax increment financing redevelopment agreement by and between the City of Belton, Missouri and Y. Belton LLC.
Motion and second. Discussion. Seeing none.
Councilmember Savage,
Aye.
Tretzel,
Aye.
Van Winkle,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Peak, Davidson,
No.
Mayor Davis.
Aye. That motion passes. Moving on over here. Wow. My agenda is a little different than my printout. B, a motion approving both readings of bill number 2019-49.
An ordinance approving the reappropriation and revision of the City of Belton fiscal year 2020 adopted city budget to add an assistant city engineer position.
Motion and second. Discussion. Seeing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Motion and a second for a second reading. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Okay, B, a motion approving the second reading of bill number 2019-49.
An ordinance approving the reappropriation and revision of the City of Belton fiscal year 2020 adopted city budget to add an assistant city engineer position.
Motion and second. Discussion. Councilman Clark.
I just, for public knowledge, where are we taking this money from? Current budget item and
Right, the current budget, this engineer, and it'll be a project engineer, will be working for projects within transportation and the water services, that is water and wastewater.
did we have extra money in there for this, or is we taking money from another place to pay for this?
No, we will be using reserve dollars that are in those funds now, so that this position can help us look at projects that we have in the current infrastructure that the city has.
Other questions or comments? Councilman Van Winkle.
Yeah, if city manager would elaborate a little more on why where we're at in hiring for a new position
Right.
in this area.
Yeah, earlier this year in the budget fiscal year, the city council, in all actuality, we discussed this with the former public works director, who we had talked about whether to have a position or whether to put funds in for consulting services. At the time, we believed that we could look at consulting services that would perform the necessary work that we needed. But as we've gone further into our infrastructure and the aging infrastructure that we have, for example, the as we look at our stormwater system and the needs that are there, our aging sidewalks, our aging the pipes that we have, and this year alone, the existing situation that we have with now 17 failed areas of sinkholes. One this last week over off London Way, we realized the desperate need that we have, just like we had a consultant come in and do a study of our streets to give us the conditions of those streets. We want to be able to have an engineer that will be able to come in and start systematically looking at the infrastructure that the city has so that we can form a plan to be able to come forward and look at what the replacement looks like and the funding streams that are available and how we will be able to look at roads, stormwater, water. You know, we have areas, I know we had Don Tyler, our water services superintendent, in front of you at our last meeting, who talked about, you know, we still have clay pipe, galvanized pipe, and asbestos water lines that are here. We need to be able to assess all of those and put a hierarchy of what our replacement should be to be able to have adequate service, have adequate infrastructure as we go forward in our community. You know, the city of Belton is an older community, so a lot of our infrastructure is older. And just as we saw the city of Kansas City when they had to come out a couple of years ago and go through a bond issuances and educate their citizens on the need, we too need to be able to have that data available and go through and ascertain the condition of our existing infrastructure so that we can explain that to our citizens so that they know why, you know, why we're seeing sinkholes, why we are seeing failures in some of our lines, and why they're seeing when a water pipe breaks, why that's occurring, because it's some of our aging infrastructure. So it's very real and it's very expensive, and we want to be able to put a plan to what that price tag looks like in order to be able to explain to all of our community the situation that we're in and what we will need going forward. So what you had in mind?
Yes.
And from what I'm hearing you say, how we're proceeding on this, I would think that by not reacting to emergencies, one, it would be in the public safety interest of our citizens, but also it would be a planned out process where we can identify these problems and not have to react in an emergency type way, which would also save us money in the long run.
Exactly, right. When we're having to pull people in, thank you, Councilman Van Winkle, when we're having to pull contractors in on an emergency basis because we have these sinkholes that are between homes or impacting people's lives and safety, we want to be able, now, of course, we're reacting to it immediately, but when you have to call in a contractor and tell them we need you here tomorrow or within the next 48 hours to begin work, they're having to pull their crews from a job that they've already contracted and be able to pull them away. And when that happens, we're paying extra dollars for those emergency repairs. But we believe that the safety of our citizens is of utmost importance, and that's why we are doing it. Being able to have this a project engineer that will then be able to look at these specific areas and needs so that we can put a systematic approach to it. We can then plan for that, so just as you stated, we can save dollars in the long run.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none.
Councilmember Clark?
Aye.
Rutzel?
Aye.
Mayor Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Van Winkle?
Aye.
Savage?
Aye.
Eek? Aye. Davidson?
Motion passes. C, motion approving both readings of Bill number 2019-50.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $20 million principal amount of general obligation bonds, Series 2019, of the City of Belton, Missouri, and certain other documents and actions by the city.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Councilman Clark.
Couple things. Why are we stopping at 20 million if our bond issues were more than that?
Yeah, I'm going to let Sheila speak to that, but the initial response is that we have, there's a certain amount of time frame that you have to spend bond dollars, and it's 3 years. And so, and it takes a lot to go through this process. And so what we want to do is we'll do the first bond issuance at 20 million because we know the projects that we have. And then when we do the second bond issuance, it's another 3 years from that. So it gives us longer period of time to be able to expend those dollars. Anything beyond that, Sheila?
My second question to you is, are we still classified as a fourth-class city?
We are
Aren't we a charter?
city.
Well, it says in here in this thing, City of Belton, Missouri, a fourth-class city and political subdivision of the state of Missouri. So I didn't know if that verbiage needed to be changed to something different than, since we're not a fourth-class city anymore. This is on, I think it says page 140. It's the, about the bond issues. Starts off with the City of Belton, Missouri in bold, a fourth-class city.
Sid, you want to come up?
I'm sorry, that is a mistake. It's on one of the exhibits, and we will fix that.
And so it's probably good about 12 years ago, but I think,
Yeah.
so.
We
I
had,
just noticed that, I'm like, going, I don't know if that's true anymore. So I just wanted to make sure, being a charter, if we're not still classified, I know we were a fourth-class city, so I just didn't know if we were still classified as a fourth-class city.
And so
You
that would
are-
have no impact or bearing, correct?
no, it's an exhibit to the ordinance, and so we can get that fixed. The front part of the ordinance, where it makes reference to the city, does say it's a constitutionally chartered city, and that is the case. It's a mistake on my part in getting it out, and we'll get that fixed in the final version.
Good point. Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Motion and a second of a second reading. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. C, a motion approving the second reading of Bill number 2019-50.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $20 million principal amount of general obligation bonds, Series 2019, of the City of Belton, Missouri, and certain other documents and actions by the city.
Motion and second. Discussion. Councilman Clark.
Mayor, I do have one thing. By the way, I've had some members of my ward thank me or thank us for their streets are nice and smooth. Unfortunately, one of the gentlemen asked me if we could have some cops come over there because it's too smooth, so people think they can do more than 25 down the road on Eastern. If you can put that in your little database, I'd appreciate it.
We've seen that also all over the city. No, we've seen it in West Belton too. They said, hey, thanks for the nice roads. And we put speed bumps on there now because it's a racetrack is what they're saying, which is, just the way it is. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none.
Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Van Winkle,
Aye.
Peak, Trutzel,
Aye.
Savage,
Aye.
Davidson, Clark.
That motion passes. We don't have any resolutions. How about City Council liaison reports? Councilwoman Davidson. Park.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about Oktoberfest. I don't know if anybody else was able to make it out there, but I did win the strongman competition.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's a lie. I did not. But thanks to Arvis Bank for sponsoring the event and the additional support from Bright Car Wash, craft vendors, the vendor booths, and the food trucks. They provided a lot of shopping opportunities, including Martin City Brewery's beer garden. Also, big thanks to Real Life Church, the American Legion, and VFW, and all of the volunteers. The dogs that came to play at the Doggy Dip Day, they had over 140 dogs that partied in the pool. It was their biggest Doggy Dip Day yet. So thank you to Man's Best Friend Pet Resort for your annual support of this great event. We appreciate PetSmart also for showing up with the goodies as well. Coming up, we have the Pumpkin Palooza. So dress up the kids in costume and head out to Memorial Park for some pre-trick-or-treating fun at the ROM-sponsored Pumpkin Palooza in Memorial Park on Saturday, October 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. It's completely free. The event will offer free treats, music, games, hay rides, and more. Besides free fun for the family, the event also provides a great opportunity for local businesses and organizations to be part of the trunk or treat. We are expecting more than 2,000 to attend this year, and that means lots of treats to hand out. Anybody interested can contact Melissa Ferrari at mferrari@beltonparks.org or by calling 348-7400 extension 7423 for all the details. I had a trunk last year. I'm planning on having a trunk this year, and I think, ran out of candy once or twice. There were so many kids. And then MX4 equipment has arrived at High Blue Wellness Center. Can't wait for our personal trainers to get certified and let the training begin. There are also exciting things coming to High Blue in October, including 2 new aqua classes, weights and waves with Bianca Ferber-Como, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. and Fridays at 9 a.m. That's it.
Do you have any other, do you have anything, Public Works, anything of that? Okay, Mayor's communication. Well, I got a lot. So going back to Fall Festival, was well attended. It was great. A lot of good things, a lot of good opportunities, good music, good times. Saw good crowds out there that was special. And there were some super shows there that was really proud. Oktoberfest, to go in on that, I was there, and it was a lot of fun. My favorite part, I think, was, well, the dancers were really good in the very beginning. The dance team, they brought a big crowd with them. Also, I thought that the Joeys that were over in the petting zoo, the kangaroos, that was pretty cool, that we had a neat petting zoo over there. Lots of good things happening out there. And again, great effort. We had police, we had fire, it was just great presentation. So we were real pleased with that. Also, Mamma Mia, I got to go see that, and by account, I think we had a park board person doing the official counting, and it was over 680 people at Mamma Mia's, and it was an outstanding show. And I want to encourage everybody to get to those if you ever get a chance. It was special. Mamma Mia was a good presentation. Recently, I was honored to be selected to represent with the school district with their seatbelt legislation that they passed. The Mary Cummings at the high school, and she was the sponsor of the Service Learning Group. And I've got a little thing I got from down there, and the police were there. We had, and I'll read their names off, but it was Mary Cummings was the sponsor. Caden Hand and Justice Howard, Belton High School students, were the ringleaders. We had what I want to call it, a group up for discussion. And Sergeant John Baker was there for the police department. And I got to tell you that it was packed. It was packed people from all over the state with MoDOT there for these kids, for this legislation that they got passed in the state was just incredible. Through the way they did their process, what a great movement that we had by our young people in the city of Belton, in the school district, that they got down there. And Councilwoman Peak was a big part of that earlier with Belton Cares. And she couldn't make that one because she was at the MML and the Mark, they had their meetings also. So we were proud and we were blessed. And what it was about is finding a success in enacting a primary seatbelt ordinance. And these people were really looking for this. They want this in their community. And our kids are leading the way in the state. And so by collaborating with Belton Police Department, gaining support from the mayor, of course, and hear how the group of extraordinary students from Belton High School made an immense impact on the city of changing legislation. Discover how it began. That's the introduction to come there. And like I said, the police department was there. They had a good question and answer period. And they asked the questions on how you're going to get it passed. And I said, you know, honestly, when you have kids talking to your city council and in front of things, it really does make a difference. And they really did a great job. You probably want to chime in a second, then I'm going to come back to you about your part of that with Belton Cares and what you thought. Any kudos or anything you want to say to anybody?
No, I think I'm fortunate to be working with this group of kids and with Mary and all that they do.
You said do.
Yeah.
You can't say that.
For the community. It's, this group is, as Mary sent me today, the bottom line for this class is it's all about making positive changes and or enriching existing programs throughout the community and beyond. And they have been instrumental in changes. Tobacco was another one. The seatbelt has been one. And they're very instrumental in working with the BAC SAC program, which for the schools, the backpacks are, they put food in the backpacks on Friday for the kids that might not have enough for the weekend, take it home and then bring it back Monday and they refill it again. They're a big part of that Harvesters program. So I enjoy working with Mary and see all that these kids and her program does.
Well, while we're at it, I've talked enough about all the mayor's communications. How about talking about MML? And Mark, explain what they are and what you were doing there.
Well, MML is Missouri Municipal League, and I was at their annual conference, and they, when I first got on the council, I went to their new elected official training, which kind of gets you going, learning about sunshine, sunshine laws, other things that impact what you will see and what you will work on as an elected official. And so there was 2 days, I attended 6 one-hour sessions of different training that they had. They were on, one was on economic development tools that I went to, another one was on municipal divisions of the circuit court and the changes that are coming down with new programs. Another one was finding the way after Wayfair, which regards use tax. So it's a lot of good information that you get to help you, I think, do a better job in trying to understand what your city is doing and how they're going about it. I enjoy it. It's a lot, but I enjoy going
I
to
know
that.
Councilman Lathrop was there also. Who else was there?
Myself, city manager, myself, and our city clerk, Andrea Cunningham.
And anything you want to talk about now about that, or you want to talk about it in your communication?
I can talk about it in my communication.
Good. Anything in Mark, or which one did you just say, MML or
NPR.
Mark?
I was at MML, and then I also went to NPR before
So,
that.
Good
Missouri
stuff
Public
then.
Risk.
Was it worthwhile? Should council people go to that
I
stuff?
think it's very worthwhile if you can get away, even if you can get away for one day. I just think you gather a lot of information and you network with other council people and mayors, and I sat at dinner, and then I sat with Heather Hall, city councilwoman from Kansas City. We had a nice conversation. And so it's just, it's really good for updating yourself and for networking.
Well, it's like with the kids with the Service Learning Project. I could not believe how many people were asking the questions about how are we going to get this passed in our area. And they asked me, Mayor, how hard was it in your community? And I said, honestly, the seatbelt legislation was easier than trash. And it really was. But and they laughed also. But in this day and age, I said any kind of legislation is going to be, questioned, and then probably rightfully so. But I thought that was worthwhile time, and I was really proud of staff to get there and get it done. I did have one more note on Mayor's Christmas tree, Andrea, and I'm sorry that I forgot you. How are the tree donations going for Mayor's Christmas tree so far?
I've had a lot of contact with individuals, and there's been some donations already sent in, and we've received a couple of gift cards as well. But you should have a letter there at your place regarding the Mayor's Christmas tree event.
Well, okay, so with that, consider for donation, and I know that Councilman Van Winkle will probably donate more than anybody else, or maybe not, but it's good times, and I know Park's going to work hard, and they're trying to be innovative with the Mayor's Christmas tree too, so we have great expectations. It'll be fun. How about City Manager's report?
Yes, as the mayor reported in the last few weeks, I've attended the Missouri Municipal League Conference as well as the Midwest Public Risk Conference, where I was the prior chair of NPR, and I believe it may be the same for the following year. We'll see when those selections are made in November. But both very good conferences. NPR is our risk pool provider, so they really focus on their conferences on best practices for risk management for the city, and sessions and talk about the what's new coming that can help organizations do their job in a safer fashion. And one of those items is drones. And so we have actually started a committee here at the city to look at what a drone, how it could be used in all of the different departments, and then it also can be used for public safety and as a life safety type item. So that was just one of the areas that was of interest to everyone that attended that conference. Missouri Municipal League, I attended some of the same classes as Councilwoman Peak. Also, they discussed other areas about infrastructure. We're not the only ones that have aging infrastructure. Everybody does, and what are the approaches that people are taking. So great information that came from those. In addition to the letter that you have at the dais that talks about the Mayor's Christmas Tree event that's coming up, you will also have a list of departments. A conversation ensued at the last meeting about how do you get a hold of department heads and what's the best way to do that. You have that list in front of you for all department heads, has our emails as well as our direct lines for work and our cell numbers. So you have that, and so if you have any questions, you are welcome to contact me as well as the department heads. And if you have any questions about that, let me know. Another item that we have this evening, Sheila, do we want to talk about our health insurance renewal?
Good evening. On October 8th, there will be motions on the agenda to approve our upcoming insurance renewals. Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're looking at only a 2.6% rate increase, which is absolutely phenomenal. And really that is equal to the ACA health insurance excise tax that has not been suspended for next year. So there's not going to be any rate increase for our employee assistance plan, for long-term disability, for life, dental, or vision. So very fantastic news for our budget in the future. So.
We've had a benefits committee meeting with representatives from the departments. They've gone back to share with the employees, and so all the employees are aware of this. And we wanted to let you know about it as well, and to let you know that it'll be on the next agenda.
Was that it?
Mm-hmm.
I went back through my notes and I did miss one. Councilwoman Peak, you filled in to me this last weekend at the POW-MIA. You want to say anything about that?
Oh, the POW-MIA Celebration of Remembrance up at Memorial Park. There wasn't, not a lot of people attended. I think the weather kind of scared them off, but again, it was a memorial, a very nice a program that they put on, and remembering, you know, the POWs and the MIAs and what's going on. And I believe the gentleman, one of the gentlemen that spoke that there's still 43,000 missing, and the majority of them are from the Vietnam War. And so I've attended it, I don't know, I think since I became on the council, and I have really enjoyed it. And it's a great group that puts this together, and they are looking at maybe making a change next year to move it inside somewhere to try to get more in attendance. But it's a very moving ceremony, and I would encourage anyone to attend it when it comes about next year.
Well, I got one more thing before we go into executive session. Michael Christopher, how much rain did we have? You have to turn that on.
3.6 inches.
At City Hall? Okay, did that classify as a 100-year flood or anything like that?
Depends on the time frame. If it's in 6 hours, it would have been a 10-year storm. If it's in 3 hours, I think it puts us into a 25 to 50 year.
So where are we?
It looked like we were closer to the 10 to 25 year.
Okay. Well, that's good data, though. I mean, that's great that we have that ability to know that. Okay, anything else? Other business? Councilman Clark.
Well, I was going to have you introduce the gentleman sitting there I am new, so I don't know, but you said his name was Michael Christopher?
Yes, this is Michael Christopher. He is our city engineer, and he is also our interim public works director.
Okay. I had one question, I think it's probably for Dave. Do we, and if you don't know the answer, you can always get it to me later, I appreciate it. Do we have is there an automatic setback on houses or retail or anything like that?
Sure, every zoning district has required setbacks, yes, sir.
I mean, the reason I bring this up, because I like the golf, so I go out to Marquee Park or Eagles Landing, I drive Marquee, and I see those fourplexes being built. I'm starting to see that we almost need to put no parking on one side of the street so we can get ambulances and fire trucks and stuff through that, because it seems like it's already being a log jam over there, and it might be something you guys to discuss, being on here new. I just drive through that, and I just didn't seem like that setback was very back far enough, in my opinion, but I'm an insurance guy, not an engineer or anything like that, so.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of townhome communities are built with a 20-foot setback, which is just enough room for one car in the driveway. And if they have a garage, then that can be a car in the garage and a car in the driveway. But that can be inconvenient, and people do park on the street. And there have been some projects over the last 2 years that I've worked on where the city council has been kind of critical of projects like that. So we have looked to some additional off-street parking on tracks to provide some guest parking, overflow parking for those kinds of things. So we've addressed that in some other projects lately, so.
Well, I see I don't know, it's called North Crest, or just the ones to the west of there being built also, and their setback is a lot farther back. So I'm just trying to figure out, one's done this way and another one's done that way. That's why I wanted to know if we just had a common, it's supposed to be 25 feet, 50 feet, whatever number that is, or did they get in a variance to change that? I don't know, so.
Yeah, I think the projects you're talking about, Mr. Clark, are both what we call planned unit developments, which have development requirements specifically set up for those projects, and those vast majority of the time include reduced setbacks, so you can get more density and tighter development. And so a lot of those PUDs are considered on a case-by-case basis. And that's what's led to some of the awareness of the council to provide some overflow parking on tracks, because those things happen, and they look nice on paper, they look nice on the development, but there can be some guest parking, some overflow parking on one side of the street to create some congestion.
Like I said, I've been going by there, and they're moving in now, and so I'm starting to see cars just lining the streets up already, and I just like, man, that's gonna be, when you start getting all those places filled, it just seems like it's just gonna be, we can't get a emergency vehicle through there, so I just kinda worried about it.
Yes, sir.
That was before your time here?
Well, those projects were,
Okay. Because I agree that it's just, it's not good, is a good way to say it. That's the only way, it's not. And like you said, the analogy with the other townhouses, it's a lot better, the ones up the road.
Right.
It's a lot better,
Well,
but that was your time, you'd done that one. And I've heard you say things that I won't repeat about the one we're talking about, that.
Well, I just think us as a council, maybe as a city, ought to make sure we have parameters set up for this type of situation, so it doesn't, if it does come up again, we're ready for it. I mean, personally.
No, I think it's valid, and you go ahead.
well, there are, Mr. Clark, the zoning ordinance requires a certain number of spaces, off-street spaces for each type of dwelling unit. So our code has that built in, but it can be achieved and done in a variety of different ways. And people are lazy, and people are going to park in the street rather than juggle cars in a single-car driveway. So I guess I'll just conclude and leave you with the fact that the council has been very critical of developments in the last 2 years, and we have provided off-street parking. So I think it's just kind of the way the council does business now, to look to provide more overflow parking and guest parking, those kinds of situations. So I think you'll see better projects going forward.
Is that good?
Yeah, it concerns.
No, I think it's valid. Any other comments, Councilwoman Davidson?
It looks like the North Point development has a tenant. Do we know? There's a,
Construction team,
is it?
yeah, Brinkman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dang it, I got excited.
I've had other people say, oh, we got a tenant, really?
Good. Anything else? Any other new business? Seeing none, motion to enter executive session, discuss matters pertaining to the leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate according to Missouri State Statute 610-0212, and the record be closed, and the meeting adjourned from there. Motion is second. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Councilmember Davidson. Aye. Clark.
Aye.
Schretzel.
Aye.
Savage.
Aye.
Van Winkle.
Aye.
Peak. Aye. Mayor Davis.
Aye. And we're adjourned.